I greet you with love and respect, Seeker. In this video, you will hear about the crisis that characterizes our days, which perhaps indicates the approaching end of a dark era. If we look carefully around the world, we can see obvious signs that the systems of our society are in crisis. In this chapter, we will take a look at some of the areas of life in which the signs of the crisis are most visible. The Industrial Revolution saw a drastic increase in carbon dioxide emissions. In the beginning, we only burned wood and coal, then also natural gas, and today we also burn various petroleum derivatives in such quantities that we can see clear signs of global climate change due to the greenhouse effect. In the fight against climate change, every square meter of area covered with green plants and every tree is our ally. But due to the cutting down of forests, the trees are decreasing, along with it the habitats of animals, so animal species are disappearing. Human greed and irresponsibility do not spare the rivers, seas and lakes either, and the amazing production of waste creates mountains of garbage and huge floating garbage islands. The economic system of developed Western-type countries is the market economy, which gave rise to the consumer society. This system promised us the competition of ever better quality and ever more durable products. Instead, only false advertising competes. It is not the better and more durable products that win, because the products of the companies that have more capital for marketing actually emerge victorious from the competition. In addition, planned obsolescence was born. Companies deliberately create products in such a way that after a certain time they have to be thrown away and new ones have to be bought. With this, the mountains of garbage grow even more, resources are depleted, and consumers are thoroughly beaten. During large-scale agriculture, a lot of fertilizers and pesticides are used, which seep into the soil, groundwater, and the plants themselves, which form the raw material for our food. There are more and more people suffering from food allergies, diabetes and other diseases caused by unhealthy nutrition. We see animals as objects, as if they do not feel pain, fear and cannot suffer. Large-scale animal agriculture operates with a complete lack of compassion. In some countries, autocratic regimes still make life hell for their inhabitants, but the majority of Western-type countries already have some form of representative democracy. However, it is increasingly apparent that, although a representative democracy is much more livable than a dictatorship, it also has its serious flaws. Very often they seem to work in a counterproductive way. The most unscrupulous, greediest and most populist leader is selected from among the candidates. Campaigning politicians measure people's desires and fears instead of needs and real dangers, and by making grandiose promises and playing the role of a hero who saves them from a false enemy, they persuade the manipulable masses to vote for them. After this, the elected leaders still do not care about the needs of the people, but rather pocket the taxpayers' money and distribute it among their relatives and friends. Instead of setting limits to the exploitative and polluting activities of large corporations with laws, they allow themselves to be bribed by lobbyists and allow multi-companies to expand, and even help them. Money was invented thousands of years ago to replace barter. With this, man created an effective tool that contributed to the development we have achieved. However, there have been more and more people who see money not as a means, but as a goal, and with the spread of capitalism, this has unfortunately become a world trend. Money was once backed by gold, but in June 1944, 44 countries signed the Bretton Woods Agreement. After the Second World War, countries' gold reserves were depleted due to their war spending. Therefore, it was very difficult to ensure the equivalence of their national currencies with gold. Thus, the value of an ounce of gold was fixed at $35. On the one hand, the central banks of the member countries were given the right to exchange their reserves in dollars for gold or vice versa at a fixed price by contacting the Central Bank of the United States of America, Federal Reserve Bank. On the other hand, the US has been able to provide liquidity by issuing dollars based on debt to protect the system. After 27 years, this system ended on August 15, 1971. The day US President Richard Nixon declared that the dollar would not be converted into gold and was devalued. This caused unprecedented inflation, people were impoverished, they had no money for housing, So to this day an ordinary person is forced to take out a loan and be in debt for decades or even a lifetime if he wants his own apartment. Raising and educating the rising generations is perhaps one of the most noble professions that a person can choose for himself. Yet nowadays this is the profession that receives the least respect. Teachers should be the most compassionate and wisest people and undergo a serious psychological screening before entrusting them with the children who represent the hope of the future. They should be respected both financially and morally. It should be the greatest honor to be able to teach. Instead, anyone who graduates from a college or university can now teach, and teachers are underpaid and overworked. The curriculum forces teachers to instill a wealth of unnecessary data with students who are also overburdened. However, the most important thing would be to pass on useful knowledge in later adulthood and to develop the abilities of their students in a versatile way. Traditional folk medicine, such as the use of medicinal herbs, is considered quackery by official medicine. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical industry is one of the largest revenue-generating industries worldwide. Medical visitors try to persuade the doctors to sell as much of the medicine distributed by their client as possible. After a certain amount sold, they offer a larger sum of money or a trip, so the doctors also have a financial interest in selling as much medicine as possible. This is how they make patients dependent on medicine and thus weaken the immune system with often unnecessarily prescribed medicines. The majority is unable to accept passing away, which is why death is one of the biggest taboos in our society. It is difficult to let go of our loved ones, so elderly people who are nearing death and whose bodies have started to deteriorate are often put in nursing homes, filled with drugs, and forcibly kept alive. This twisted, inverted humanism wants to prolong life at all costs, while not caring about the quality of life. He does not let go in peace those whose time has expired and due to their health condition they can no longer live a life worthy of a human being. With the invention of radio and television, and later the Internet, mass media appeared, which the authorities and advertising companies can easily use to manipulate masses of people. Originally, the task of the media would have been to inform people about factual events in the world. On the other hand, the media serves political interests and deliberately exaggerates possible dangers in a sensationalist manner in order to generate views and clicks for itself. It affects the baser emotions, fear, hatred, envy and longing. A medium supported by two opposing political sides presents a completely opposite reality, so no one is informed of the facts. Consumers of media content are bombarded with news reports serving political interests and advertisements encouraging excessive consumption. In addition, the program between commercials and newscasts has become more and more shoddy. This mode of operation also produced celebrity culture. We look at celebrities who are not talented in anything and do not understand anything, usually with a low level of intelligence, and many even admire them. It is clear that the creators of most TV programs do not aim to uplift people, but only to cater to bad taste. Profit is the main goal, and the effectiveness of advertising that generates revenue is reduced if people consume quality programming between commercials. With the spread of the Internet, all the knowledge of the world is just a click away from everyone. But in addition to useful information, the Internet gives space to the spread of conspiracy theories and fake news, as well as even more advertising and addictive porn. Romantic comedies promise us the hope of finding the big one and true love that lasts forever. But when someone finds a partner and after a while it turns out that that person is not exactly like the prince or princess in the movie, they already throw it away and continue looking for that certain big he who actually only exists in their head. The parties involved in relationships often suffer because, instead of really wanting each other, they just want to possess their partner. However, one of the greatest crimes a person can commit is to possess another human being. From the teachings of the great religious founders, they created churches based on dogmas, which committed many atrocities in the name of their founder. It is no wonder that more and more people are turning away from religions and turning to materialism, which is even more destructive than dogmatic religions. Today, very few people believe in a loving God, or in the Buddha who preaches freedom from suffering. However, those who try to follow the original teachings of Jesus and Buddha instead of the teachings of the churches can really find a way out of suffering. If you found the video interesting, subscribe, like, comment and share with others. Let there be as many awakening spirits as possible.